Say you're interested in the study of past life, more specifically the art of recreating past life, Paleoart. The name Robert Nicholls is one you'll hear time and time again, because after beginning his career as a full-time freelancer in 1999, the work of the English artist has been featured by the likes of National Geographic and BBC and has appeared in over 40 natural history books, while some 50 of his murals and life-size 3D sculptures have been displayed in museum exhibits around the world. Nicholls is among an elite few who revive extinct beings for a living. It seems the more of his work I see, the more his rigorous devotion to anatomical accuracy and unique talent for placing his subjects inside of their respective, pragmatic, often unfamiliar worlds shines through. But nothing epitomizes his style as does his most eye-catching piece of all, Double Death. In it, an unfortunate herbivore, a young sauropod dinosaur, is depicted being yanked into the air, torn from the stability of its four pillar-like limbs by the clenched jaws of two killers, each in their carnivorous frenzy targeting opposite sides of their prey. Unlike much of modern paleoart, which is often deeply rooted in fossil evidence, Double Death is instead largely imaginative, inspired by an unlikely encounter between two blackbirds that the artist saw perched at a bird feeder when, for a brief moment, in the twilight of this particular English sunset in Gloucestershire sometime in the late 90s, both birds happened to snap up the same bit of food, and for a fleeting moment, each of them held the same morsel together in their beaks. As the sun set and the birds vanished into the veil of night, the mind of the artist was sent reeling, and that evening, after extrapolating the scene both in scale and back through deep time, that moment became immortalized. But in place of the blackbirds were a couple of their dinosaurian forebears, the T-Rex-sized killer Carcharodontosaurus, and in place of some bird feed, the wriggling body of an imperiled young, long-necked dinosaur, held up as if snatched from its herd by the pouncing predators, and instead of a Gloucestershire sunset was the Cretaceous twilight of North Africa, 95 million years ago. After revisiting the sketch years later, through more research, revisions were added, and the necessary flair was imposed, and Double Death was finally completed in 2011. Though there are ample geologic grounds to recreate these animals in the midst of a lush, humid land of patchy mangroves carved apart by streams flowing from the mouths of vast river deltas, instead, as if the jaws of two carnosaurs clenched firmly around the youngster on both sides wasn't enough to secure its death, it's banished to a sea of cracked, sun-soaked earth, empty of even so much as a single tree to retreat to, where the only green in sight is to be found on the leathery hide of the killers themselves, glistening in the sun's rays, and where the only possible refuge are the distant rolling hills, the very ones from which the sun itself is beginning to sink behind. As the sun stands to take its final bow at the horizon, the last few breaths escaping from the dinosaur coalesce in the form of a sickening screech, and as the final glimmers of light evaporate at the edge of the earth and night prevails over day, the commotion ceases and the carnosaurs feast. 3 years after I first saw Double Death in 2012, featured in the pages of a book entirely dedicated to paleoart, I saw a scientific study, published in 2015, authored by Robert Nicholls and one of the giants of the field, and in true scientific fashion set out to test a hypothesis, their hypothesis being that the real animals pictured in Double Death, the giant Carcharodontosaurus, whose fragmentary remains have been found in Cretaceous rocks of Egypt and Morocco, really would have been capable of lifting a dinosaur as large as the one pictured, without losing its balance. To do this, they calculated the center of mass and weight of the dinosaurs using 3D digital models. The carnivores came out at 6 tons each, their prey 2.1 tons. After a detailed examination, it was determined that individually, the giants had the power to carry as much as 2.5 tons in their jaws, but when that 2.5 tons is then spread across 11 meters in the shape of the long tail, body, and neck of a wriggling dinosaur, they lose their stability, leading to a fall which, at their size, almost invariably spells death. But the scenario again becomes plausible if their prey is replaced with an even younger, thus smaller sauropod. In response to their results, Nicholls produced an updated version of Double Death, where his beasts are shown mauling an even younger dinosaur of about a ton. As far as I can say for sure, this is the only paleontology paper ever published directly inspired by a piece of art. But some might wonder, just as a reviewer of their study had, whether it be appropriate to use a piece of artwork as inspiration and foundation for a scientific question. But to question this at all is to forget what lies at the heart of paleontology, because for as long as studying fossils has been considered an enterprise worthy of exploration, there have been artists willing to devote their skills to the adventure, setting out to reimagine past worlds in all of their complexities. No matter how much paleontologists find, no matter how much can be gleaned from the remains of Earth's prehistoric denizens, we'll never be so much as an inch closer to witnessing the bygone chapters of life's evolutionary drama played out before us. It's left to the artist, through his talents and imagination, to bring ancient worlds back. And this study is nothing short of a celebration of the marriage between the science of paleontology and the magic of art. I've often heard and repeated the phrase that the artist only does half the work, the rest is left to the viewer. And though this revised version of a prehistoric scene is no doubt a gruesome one, and though proven possible, is not meant to represent the typical workings of dinosaur life, in it I see an ineffable beauty, not just as a tribute to the harshness of their world, but an homage to the role of science in our endless quest to understand.